essay templates. In this session, we'll look at a few templates that we can use for the essay type questions in PTE Academic. There are 3 or 4 types of questions, essay type questions that you can get in PTE. A couple of them are most common, but still we'll also look at the other types so that you have a template for each situation. In general, our recommendation to the students of our course has always been that if you just learn the method and follow the steps properly, then you can write a high scoring essay response on your own. You don't need to depend upon a template. We have a number of other sessions. We have something on linking words. We have guided practice sessions in which we discuss how to go about writing an essay. We discuss the method and the steps one by one. So there are all those other sessions which will help you to learn how to write an essay from scratch without using any template. And if you do that, you can be sure that what you write will get you a high score. Templates are for those who do not feel confident that they can write an essay on their own in 20 minutes. That is what you have to keep in mind when you are using the templates, that they are generic. So they're made to fit any question. So whatever the topic is, the template is designed in a way that you can plug and play. It will have some standard sentences, some generic sentences. So you have to be careful that when you put the essay topic in the template, you do it in a way that it makes sense. So those are the things which we will try to understand when we look at these templates. I'll point out to you what are the precautions that you have to take, what different parts of the template mean. And yeah, if you take care of those things, and above all, you have to understand when to use each template. Now let's look at the first essay type. That's an argumentative essay. An example of this is an essay like this: should governments provide free healthcare for all citizens? And you have been asked to present arguments for or against this proposition, supporting your viewpoint with evidence. So in a way, this can also be structured in an agreement, disagreement kind of an essay, but we'll have a separate template for that. So in this case specifically, if you have been given and you've been asked for or against to make arguments, then you can use this template. In general, it will look like this. The questions will look like this: should X do Y, or any other relationship between X and Y, and argue for or against this proposition. So it might be written a little different, but the meaning is same, that they will ask you to present arguments for or against this topic and support your viewpoint with evidence. This is the template you can use for this. The standard 4-paragraph structure we will use. The first, you have to make an introduction. So you introduce the topic, the question of whether X should do Y. Now, if you look at the topic, should governments provide free healthcare for all citizens? Now, what is X here? X is governments. And what is Y? Free healthcare for all citizens. When you put this in the template, so it will go as whether government should do. No, you can't do free healthcare. You can only provide healthcare. So this is an example of a small adjustment that you will have to do to make sure that your template fits in, that your topic fits in correctly in the template. A lot of people, what they do, they take a template and then without thinking, without even looking at if it is grammatically correct, they just put words into that template. So if you put it like this, whether government should do provide, then it is a grammatical mistake and you will lose marks. So be ready to make those small adjustments. It becomes whether government should provide free healthcare for all citizens. Another thing, when it comes to templated responses, we always recommend, if it's your own response, you're writing it from scratch, you understand the topic properly, then yeah, you can make all the arguments in favor or all the arguments against the topic. But if it is a standard templated response, then in one paragraph we will say something in favor, and in another paragraph we will say something against. Why? Because it makes it easier to make an argument, and then it gives us an opportunity to use good linking words to show transition between the paragraphs. So the first paragraph, one compelling argument in favor of governments providing free healthcare stems from potential benefits, etc. Now, everywhere X or Y comes, you don't have to write the whole thing. You don't have to always say governments and free healthcare for all citizens. Why? You can just say at one place, you can say free healthcare. At another place, you can say free medical facilities for citizens. So try to paraphrase. You don't have to repeat exactly as it is. But of course, yes, if you think that is difficult, that you will not be able to do it, Then of course, just do substitution and you will still have some response to put forward. And then, for instance, if free healthcare represents the adoption of a new technology, the governments could experience enhanced productivity, innovation, and competitiveness. Now, every sentence will, if you start critically analyzing in a template, all the sentences don't make 100% perfect sense, but they are correct grammatically and more or less they are alright. And that is the purpose of a template, that you can put together something if you are not able to answer the question from scratch. So, those are the things I want you to keep in mind. But this is otherwise a very good template. Most of it is pretty standard. So in second paragraph, only the first paragraph, in one place you have to put your topic. The remaining, the 2-3 sentences in the paragraph, they are standard. That's a good template and it has very good vocabulary, high value, formal academic vocabulary. So remember this, practice using this template. And if you come across an argumentative essay question, use it. Let's look at the next essay type, which is a problem solution essay. This is an example. Examine the problem of air pollution in urban areas. Suggest effective solutions. Now in this, you will put forward something and they'll ask you to present a solution to that, or to look at one aspect and ask you how it can be improved. It can be written in different ways, but you have to try to understand that it is a problem solution type of an essay, that they're asking me to discuss something which is like a problem. So it can be air pollution, traffic on roads, global warming, anything. They're asking you to examine the issue, what are the problems with it, why it is caused, what's its impact, etc. And then what can be done to solve that problem. This is how it might look like. Examine the problem of X and then suggest solutions to reduce X or to solve the problem of X. Here's the template. Now, what is X in our example? It is air pollution. So the issue of air pollution stands as a significant concern within the context of subject area. Now just identify the overall subject area. You can say within the context of livable urban areas, the context of global warming, something which is at a slightly higher level than the specific topic that you're dealing with. For example, air pollution, what does it fall under? Maybe it falls under a problem of urban areas. So you can say the issue of air pollution stands as a significant concern within the context of problems in urban areas. Okay. And then again, in one paragraph, since this is a problem solution, the first paragraph we devote to talking about the problem. To comprehend the problem of air pollution thoroughly, etc., etc., the genesis of air pollution, it's quite an easy template to use. For instance, if air pollution is related to environmental degradation, and an easy template, I think you can use it to get a good score. Second paragraph, addressing the problem of air pollution requires a multifaceted strategy, so that's also simple. And here we are talking about the solutions, and then finally a conclusion. As long as you are able to pinpoint what the problem is, in this case, it's air pollution. Most of the places you will just write air pollution. But if you can paraphrase, if it is something where it makes sense to paraphrase it, then do it. Don't repeat it over and over again. And the other thing, in the first sentence, just try to think of the subject area. If you can't think of it, then say something bigger, like a problem of within the context of problems of modern life, within the context of problems of everyday world, something like that. Go at a high level to identify the subject area. The third essay type that we will look at is advantages and disadvantages, such as discuss the advantages and disadvantages of working from home, include personal experiences or observations in your response. So by looking at the essay itself, you have to talk about advantages and disadvantages. And this is what it will look in general. X here is the thing whose advantages and disadvantages you have to discuss. Just like the argumentative, we will talk about, in one paragraph, we will talk about the advantages, and in the second, we will talk about the disadvantages. Now, for your sake, I've just kept this a bit open-ended. One of the primary benefits observed is, and you can write something on your own, describe a general benefit. Problem is working from home. What is a general benefit? You can say you don't have to travel. So one of the primary benefits observed is that you don't have to travel to office, which manifests in, what does it lead to? Which manifests in cost savings. For instance, in personal experience, working from home has facilitated the time I can give to my health and to exercise, underscoring its utility in improving the quality of my life. Those things you need to understand just a little bit. So I've tried to present this template in a way that A large part, more than 50-60% of this is standard, but just a little bit of effort, you can use this to get full marks. As long as you can think of one benefit of the of what they're talking, you can one advantage and one disadvantage you can think of, then you should be able to use this template and your response will look almost as if you have written from scratch. Now let's look at the final essay type, which is agree or disagree essay. A question of this essay type will look something like this. Do you agree or disagree with the statement? Then there'll be a statement and justify your stance with reasons and examples. Sometimes there'll be a clear statement or it might be written in a slightly different way, but you'll be able to identify what's the key theme, and around that they will ask you whether you agree or disagree with it. So that's important that you are able to identify the key theme here. What is the agreement or disagreement about? In this case, as it is, social media has a negative impact on society. Do you agree or disagree? It can be anything. Traveling has a good impact on education, or organic food is good for health. It can be anything, and you can agree or disagree. The template that we have provided for this, you will have to first decide whether you are going to go with I agree or you're going to write the essay from disagreement point of view. And then you can just change a few things here and there. First of all, as I said, find out what X is. Statement like this, social media has a negative impact on society, then you can just put that statement here within then context or field. So you can say within the field of research, okay? The statement social media has a negative impact on society presents a proposition that has garnered considerable attention within. You can say government circles, you can say within the field of mental health, anything, something which is at a high level but is somewhat related to the particular theme. So social media has a negative impact on society. Who will look into this? Maybe some researchers will look into this, some groups, some research groups in universities might look into this, or government might look into this. That you can put in here. The rest of this is pretty standard. Then in the first paragraph, so let's say you agree. So you will pick agree from here. I agree with the statement primarily due to, then give one reason here, and then the reason is grounded in. You can either give a proper reason or you can write just this standard text that is written. The reason is grounded in empirical evidence, theoretical frameworks, and ethical considerations. So you can flip it, or if you have a proper reason, then you can give your own reason there. For instance, you can provide a real life example or case study. Okay. So for example, social media has a negative impact on society. For instance, a recent study illustrates how 90% of school children cannot pay attention to, cannot sit still without looking at their phones for more than an hour. Either you can put in your own example, or again, you can just fill in some words here. For instance, a study by Harvard illustrates how social media has, for instance, a recent study by Harvard illustrates how social media has a negative impact on society, and this directly supports the stance of agreeing with this statement. Everywhere where we have mentioned X, you don't have to repeat it as it is. You can rephrase it, or you can say with the statement. Just mix and match. You don't have to write the whole statement again and again. Then if you are agreeing further, another compelling reason for agreeing with this statement or with X is, then give your second reason. This perspective is reinforced by recent academic research and historic trends. A pertinent example can be seen in, then you can give another example can be seen in a recent survey where 90% of the citizens agreed that social media has had a negative impact on their lives. So my advice is that when you are practicing with this template, come up with 2 or 3 things that you can put here. So for example, for instance, a Harvard study. Now here, a pertinent example can be seen in a recent government survey. All right, can be seen in a recent survey by the government of Australia. So come up with a couple of those things and then you won't even have to think about it in the exam. Now finally, you have the conclusion paragraphs. Again, you will just substitute the statement. So in conclusion, the examination of the statement, social media has a negative impact on the society, or you can rephrase, in conclusion, the examination of social media's impact on society through the lens of, now this is pretty much the same as you can say related to the context of field. So through the lens of mental health, which is like the higher topic, as we said, understand what is the higher theme here through the lens of mental health or through the lens of citizen satisfaction, something like that, reveals a nuanced perspective on the issue at hand. And here, if you are agreeing or disagreeing, you can just put that statement here. That is what your essay will look like. You can download these templates from the download section. You will find a few notes there which will help you with this. You can prepare, and even from the notes, you can take some standard words and phrases that you can put in these places. Or if you need more flexibility, you want to be more original, then you can add examples and things from your own. All right, so then it will become an original essay, and the chances that you get a higher score will increase.